Welcome to 5% Radio, where it's all about learning like no one else today so you can live like no one else tomorrow. Please be sure to share and subscribe. Welcome back to another episode of the 5% Radio podcast. In today's episode, I will be discussing a 3-step success formula that if you follow it, I don't care what field you're in, what career you're in, or what goal you are chasing, what thing you're trying to get better at, if you follow this, and it sounds overly simplified, but I can guarantee that you will improve and move towards your goal, if not achieve your goal, depending on how closely you want to follow this 3-step process. I've not covered this before in the show at all, so this is brand new content. Super excited to bring this to you, and this is episode 17 of 5% Radio. Before I dive into the actual content of today's show, though, I wanted to do the shoutout, and that is this. I was doing some back-end office stuff for the podcast, just kind of checking on, where are downloads coming from, how many downloads do we have, devices people are listening on, all that sort of stuff, and I actually came across this. So we have listeners in Oceania, Asia, Europe, Africa, and North America, and actually the second largest one is in Europe, and that is that looks like it's kind of the growing one right now. But Oceania, if I pronounce that right, is over by like Australia, that area. So I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. We literally have people listening all over the world to this podcast. So again, this podcast is two things. Number one, this is me sharing my journey to financial freedom, which is about 12 months away. So this is season 1. I'll be sharing my journey from where I was at, working for myself, doing freelance work, running a marketing agency, up to financial freedom to where I'm able to work, 10 to 15 hours a week. And I have more money and more time than I've ever had before working at any kind of a job, sales job, commission, salary, hourly, whatever, or working for myself. So we are quickly moving towards that goal, and I'm getting personally mentored by some guys that are doing extremely well in their finances, and they obviously know what they're doing, so they're actually kind of giving me a roadmap to get to that exact position. But secondly, the show is also me sharing what I'm learning along the way and what I've already learned through studying and really through doing what I'll be covering today, which is this 3-step process. So before I dive into that is kind of the premise of the show. If you're new here, if you've not gone back and listened to episodes 1 through 16, I would highly encourage it. I laid out this content in a way that really, what do my listeners need next if they're actually looking to move towards that goal of financial freedom, which is not everybody. But if that is you, if you're looking to move towards a lifestyle of time and money, go back and listen to episodes 4 and 5 to really figure out, what exactly is financial freedom? What does that mean? There's different ways to make money. There's 4 different ways: employee, self-employed, B-type business owner, investor. And then on the macro, on the bigger spectrum, there's really 2 ways that breaks down into. There's active income versus passive income. Difference there being I'm getting paid for what I did versus I'm getting paid for what I do or what I am continuing to do, what I'm doing now. So if you're looking to get passive income, go back and listen to episodes 4 and 5. I'll really lay out what that is and exactly kind of the differences there between the active income, employee and self-employed, and the passive income, the B-type business owner and the investor. But anyway, let's dive into the content of today's show. So what is this simple 3-step formula that you say is guaranteed to work, Jesse? How could something be that simple? Okay, here it is. I know I've talked about define, learn, do in the past and all kinds of other simple 3-step, X, Y, and Z sort of things. This simple 3-step formula is read, listen, associate. I think I've maybe mentioned this in passing, but I've not actually dove into it. So here's exactly what it is. Read, listen, associate is literally just a formula to get better at anything you want to get better at. And I actually, I was geared towards, kind of directed towards this from the mentoring that I've been receiving over the past couple of years in the journey to financial freedom. But before I was ever looking at becoming financially free, before I'd ever even heard that term or thought about having a life with both time and money where I could work, 40 hours a month and make more than I ever made, make more than anyone that I ever knew made on a job or working as a self-employed person, before I ever even found out that 40 hours a month was an option versus 40 hours a week, I was doing read, listen, associate in the fitness arena. I was doing read, listen, associate for the gym, for powerlifting, for CrossFit, for bodybuilding, for my diet, for nutrition, for recovery, for all of this stuff, kinesiology, massage. Like I'm doing all of this research constantly. I'm getting these certifications. I'm reading these books. I'm reading these magazines. I'm listening to these podcasts. I'm reading articles. I'm hanging out with other people that are fitness nerds, that are gym rats, that are health nuts. And I'm trying to just glean any little nugget that I can through read, listen, associate. So what the heck is that? What do I mean by those 3 words? Well, Firstly, let's take a look at reading. So reading, most of us are like, I can't wait to be out of school so I can be done reading gross college textbooks, high school book reports, all that kind of. If you've never gone to a university, by the way, the difference between college and university, even though I dropped out of both, college twice, university once, I absolutely despised formalized higher education. I love learning. I am an avid student of the things that are important to me, but when it came to sitting there getting lectured by someone whose job it was to teach rather than to actually do the thing they were teaching, that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Even as an 18-year-old kid, I thought it was stupid, and I quit. And I have no remorse or regrets about that because I've talked to so many people that went to college and they're like, yeah, I wish I had not gone. So if you loved it, great, more power to you. It was for you. It was not for me. But I digress. Going back to what I was saying, so most people look at reading as something that is like a school activity. I can't wait to be done with school. I can't wait to be done with college. I can't wait to be done with career school, trade school, whatever that is, so I can be done reading textbooks, reading this, reading that. Now, reading used to be a common pastime in America. Now people watch the boob tube. They sit and watch TV. They scroll their phone. They spend time on Facebook. They're on YouTube. They're, listening to some meaningless, mindless thing, someone ranting on social media. Reading used to be a pastime before now we are into an age of divertisement, meaning whatever I can do to keep myself distracted, divert my attention, to keep me from having to think on my own. But reading is such a powerful tool because think about this. I can pick up a book written by a man. Let's take the area of marriage. I can take a book that was written by a person in their 80s who's been married 50 plus years, successfully married, not like married to 4 different people over 50 years, married to one person over a 50-year time span that has a healthy marriage, who's still happily married, that has great kids, who was able to actually raise a family, lead a home with great morals, virtue. They stood for something. I can read that person's book that took them 80 plus years to live. I can read that book in 4 hours. I can read 10 pages a day, 20 pages a day, and I can knock that sucker out in 3 to 4 hours, and I can live 80 plus years of their life by reading 3 to 4 hours. Tell me what other thing you could invest time into. And I'm trying to build the value of reading to get people to understand why it's so important. I have begged so many people to read, to try to get their finances better, to try to get their marriage better, to try to learn how to communicate better, to try to get them to quit arguing with people, to try to get them to move up in their careers, to try to get them to fill in the blank, you name it. I have tried to get so many people to read because reading has absolutely changed my life as far as finances, relationships, everything else goes. But getting people to read is kind of like getting people to try to eat like a kale salad. They know it'd be great for them, but it's just not really something they want to do. I'll tell you this. In 2017, I was tired of the results that I was getting. I had never been a reader, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to change something. I set a New Year's resolution. I know that most people do that, and they break it like 2 weeks later, and they're like, scratch out the paper, 2023, scratch it out, 2024, scratch it out, 2025. Like, I'll just try it next year. I was serious about this. So I set a New Year's resolution back in 2017. So rolling over 2016 to 2017, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to become a reader. I started with an area, and here's the key. I started with an area that was interesting to me. I don't care what that is. If you like to hunt, start reading and hunting. If you like to work out, start reading in fitness. If you like to cook, start reading and cooking. If you really want a better marriage and your marriage is one of your main priorities, which if you're married, it should be a pretty high priority, start reading in that. If you are a minister, you're someone that runs a church and you're looking to grow your organizational leadership, start reading in leadership, specifically books written by pastors. If you're wanting to improve your finances, start reading books by people that have fruit on the tree financially. Start reading in an area that interests you. It does not have to be the area of pain that you need to grow in most, although that would be my first recommendation. But if you're just looking to develop a habit, start doing it in an area you like. For example, if you came into me as a personal training client, which I don't even do anymore, but I did for years and years and years, spent bunches of money in certifications, and that was like my world for a while. I do it as enjoyment now. I still do read, listen, associate in that area. I still read articles, watch videos, listen to podcasts here and there, and I still talk to health nuts, and I'm still looking for tips for, hey, how can you cut weight, or how can I improve my mile time or deadlift more, that sort of thing. But it's not my main area anymore that I'm looking to grow in. However, I still use this formula in that area because it gets results every time. But going back to what I was saying, if I had a personal training client and they came to me and they said, I absolutely hate doing any kind of barbell work, are we still going to do barbell work? Absolutely. We're still going to do it because people need to lift with barbells. Like if they want to have functional, well-rounded strength, they need to use dumbbells, barbells, body weight, bands, all that kind of stuff. But if they told me flat out, I hate doing barbell deadlifts, we're going to do them, but it's not going to be the first thing that we start on because I don't want them to hate me right out of the gate and be like, yeah, I'm quitting. I want them to get acclimated by working out, pushing themselves. We'll do a little bit that they don't want to do, and then we'll do some movements they like. A little bit more of what they don't want to do, and then movements they like. We'll start with movements they like. We'll do a little bit of the movements they hate, and we'll do that until they're like, okay, this is tolerable. I'll do it because I'm seeing the results from it. So I would start with something that they are actually, not completely opposed to. Like they're okay with doing it, even though it might not be their favorite. They don't hate it. So I'm going to start there. So when you're looking to start with reading, start with something in your area of interest. I don't care what that is. I don't care if you are into video games to the point where you're like, man, I'm addicted. If you're looking to become a reader because you want to improve some other area, start reading in an area that you enjoy reading about. Start buying a gaming magazine or going on gaming websites or reading articles on Reddit, or like find something that you can start reading actively as a habit and then transition that over. I can tell you the exact book that I started reading. It was a Westside Barbell book on the conjugate method of powerlifting. I started reading that book, which is, by the way, literally reads like a college textbook, and the guy who wrote it is a lifting coach, not an author, so it's very jumbled and just kind of a hodgepodge of thoughts, and it's not really the most organized reading, I'll say that, at the least. But I was interested in that area. I learned a ton from it, and then I started listening to podcasts, and then I started asking people at the gym that were, deadlifting 750 pounds, like, hey, what's the best accessory movement? Meaning, what are the secondary exercises I need to do outside of deadlifting itself to get better at the deadlift? What would you recommend? Watching my form. Okay, here's a video of me maxing out. What would you say? Okay, I broke down at this point in the lift. What do you think I should work on next? And could you give me a few exercises for that? So I was reading in the area that I wanted to grow in. I was listening to content in the area that I wanted to grow in, and here's the key, by people that had results. I wasn't just listening to Joe Blow, like, oh, look, my friend started a podcast, and he's in the exact same shape as me. I'm going to go listen to his podcast. Now, I might do that to support my buddy, but I'm not going to do that probably to learn and grow because we're at the same level. I'm not really learning from someone that's at the exact same level as me in that area. I could learn from him in other areas because everyone else is senior in some area. If I come to your house, I don't care who you are or what you do for a living or how much money you do or don't have, what your relationship status is, like if you have a good marriage, bad marriage. If I came to your house, there is something that you are absolutely phenomenal at that I suck at. And if I came to your house to learn that thing, I would be a phenomenal student. I'd be taking notes, asking questions like there's no tomorrow because I know that you are my senior. You are better than me in that area, and therefore I can learn from you. I don't care if I'm worth $10 million and you make 20 grand a year. If you are someone who is great at let's say a small engine block, like that's your specialty, and I need my mower fixed, guess where I'm going? I am going to you, and I have questions, and I will take down every single thing you say, and I will just drink it in like just a thirsty person at a fountain for the first time in 3 weeks. Like, I'm going to be a great student because you know more than me in that area. So make sure it's people that have fruit on the tree, and be willing to be humble enough to say, okay, this person knows more than me in this area. Even if I don't necessarily like the advice, if they have fruit on the tree, I will take it. So I started reading lifting books, lifting articles. Is that the most exciting thing in the world? Printing out a lifting article at work, taking that home and reading a 15-page article. For me, that was exciting. For some of you, you're like, oh man, I'm going to throw up, put me to sleep, like gag me with a spoon. Like there's no way. That's great. You might not want to buy a 500-page book on Olympic weightlifting programming. That might not be your thing. I bought it. I'm like, man, this looks super interesting. So it's completely fine. Whatever you want to start with is fine. Just make sure you can actually start with reading something in the area of interest that you want to start growing in first. Now, let's get into listening. That's what you're doing right now. Listening is I am actively listening to content around the area that I'm looking to grow in. So if you're looking to live a 5% life, if you're looking to live a life that is against the grain, it's not average, it's above average in every way, shape, or form that you can possibly be, not in a way that you are poo-pooing on people that are average, but in a way that you're saying, man, I want more out of my life. Like I'm not going to accept the status quo. I don't want to work 40 hours a week for 90 to 100,000 hours of my life, retire at 65 and be broke or worse, dead or disabled by that age. And then if I'm still around, live on Social Security, that's not the life that I want. What can I do to get there? Well, great news, you're in the right place because I'm getting information from people that are literally worth $100 million, and I'm taking the things that I'm learning from them and giving that to you every single time I record an episode. So when it comes to listening, number one, make sure it is people that actually have fruit on the tree. If someone's not even on the journey of where I want to go, I'm not going to listen to a thing they have to say about that particular area. If you're a single person that's been married 5 times and divorced 5 times, and you're going to try to give me, hey, here's a podcast episode that I recorded on how to have a healthy marriage. I love you. You might be my buddy. I might want the best for you, but that's probably not the area that I'm not going to look to you for that area. So make sure that people have fruit on the tree in the reading, in the listening, and in the associating. But in the listening particularly, listening is something that you can do with no extra time learning. It's called net learning, N-E-T. I can listen to something while I'm driving down the road. I can listen to something like pretty soon I'm going to New York to do some business up there. I have an organization that's growing up there, and I'll be going to Rochester, New York. And guess what? For the 5 hours down there, I'm going to be listening to information to grow in my specific field. For the 5 hours back, I'll be listening to information to grow in my specific field. I listen to a mixture of podcasts and audiobooks, primarily audios by the people who I am learning from, specifically how to do exactly what I'm doing to get. So I'm trying to be as niche as possible. Here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to get into, let's say, going back to the fitness example. Okay, so I'm reading books on lifting, programming, powerlifting. That's the area that I want to grow in. I don't want to then go listen to content that is someone talking about how to run a marathon. Okay, powerlifting, running a marathon. Yes, running is something that I might want to do for conditioning. I'll probably go out and run today, actually. It's a beautiful day in Ohio. We have basically California-like weather. I told someone that the other day. I'm like, hey, man, how's it going? He lives out in Oceanside, California. He's like, oh, man, I'm doing great, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, we have California weather here today. I said, I'm enjoying some California-like weather. He's like, wait, you're in California? I'm like, no, that'd be a jerk move. Like, hey, I'm in the state you live in, and I live 3,000 miles away, but I'm not going to come say hi. I'm like, no, we have nice weather today. Like, sorry for the confusion. But if I'm reading in an area, I want to make sure that it's actually related. So I'm not going to read in personal finance and then go read in, how to buy $1 million real estate with no money down and use other people's money. Like if I'm working on personally getting out of debt, like that's not really. I want to read and listen in the same area so they're complementary. So if I'm having a dinner that has a side salad, steak, mashed potatoes, and then I'm like, you know what sounds good? Like, let's throw some cherry cheesecake on the plate. Like, what the heck? That might be fine for a different area of my day, but at that particular time, I'm probably going to want like some green beans or, cheese covered cauliflower. Like, I'm going to want something that complements that meal. So if I'm looking to grow in area A, I want something that's like area B. Like it's a little offshoot of area A, but it's still very, very, very closely related. So my listening when I started this journey came from people who were in the fitness community, cutting weight, how to increase their recovery time, how to decrease their recovery time, so how they could do more work and recover faster. I was reading about nutrition. I was reading about how to improve my sleep. I was reading about things that would help area A that I'm reading in. I was reading about that, and then I'm listening to podcast, YouTube videos, recorded interviews of people who are specifically discussing, so this is a powerlifter, and he's talking about working on mobility. He's talking about recovery. He's talking about when to get massage work and how long to do it, and if it's deep tissue versus surface. And he's talking about your water intake, and he's talking about supplementation. He's talking about things that will aid my development in Area A. So Area A is super closely related to Area B. I'm not listening to two totally different things, how to win a world record marathon time and then how to also deadlift 5 times your body weight. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So that'd be like, again, make sure the areas are related, reading, listening, and then associating. If I'm looking to associate with people who are going to help me grow in the area that I'm looking to grow in right now, if I'm a power lifter, let's say, and I'm wanting to listen to people that are talking about how to recover from powerlifting, I don't want to then go hang out with someone that swims 3 miles a day and rides 30 miles a day on their bicycle and they're training for an Ironman. Can I benefit from that person's knowledge? Absolutely. That is a completely different area than I'm training in currently. Can I benefit from their knowledge? Yes, I can. But more than the benefit, I'm going to be distracted because they're giving me information. They're going to be talking to me about the fact that they don't really lift that heavy and they focus more on just keeping the muscle tone. They focus on endurance, so they do super high rep stuff. And if I try to implement that into my recovery supplement stack, massage work, what I should be drinking, what I should be eating, how much I should be sleeping, my programming for powerlifting, and then I'm listening to this guy who's looking to be 150 pounds soaking wet at 5'8" so he can run a 5-minute mile back to back to back for consecutive 4 miles straight before he hops on his bicycle that day. Those are two conflicting areas. So I want to make sure that if I'm reading in this specific area. I'm reading in area A. I'll listen in area B, and I will associate with people in area C. So I want to keep them as closely related as possible so I'm getting the maximum benefit for my time. Otherwise, I'm spreading my attention too thin. We've all seen the person that has a million hobbies, 2 jobs, they're into breeding dogs. They mow lawns on the side. They work 5 days a week. They also have an ice cream stand that they run every year at the fair. They also have a secondary business where they're selling stuff on Etsy, and then they're streaming on this platform, and they're running a TikTok channel, and they have a Facebook page that they're looking to grow, and they buy and resell stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And on the weekends, their spouse does Lyft and Uber, and then in their spare time, they like to buy and sell things on eBay. And they also trade crypto. That person, even though from the outside, a lot of the 95% world will be like, man, that person's a hustler. They're doing so much. They always have money. Yeah, but their attention is spread super thin. People, and here's something you've got to learn. People that are truly excellent in an area focus on what they are looking to get excellent at. The person who is world class in what they do, the world's best cyclist, is not also competing in powerlifting. Someone going to school to become a doctor is probably not also competing in, indoor soccer tournaments and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wrestling, and they're not trying to break the world record squat for their body weight with no gear. They are focused on what they are focused on. They are about what they are about. Be into what you are into. Be into what you're into. So make sure you're focused. So I'm going to give a couple of examples of this, and then I will close out this episode. So before I go further, make sure that you start with what you are interested in and then transition into where you need to grow. So I'll say that again. So start with what you are interested in now. So start out with the lowest barrier to entry, the easiest habit to do. Start with that. Start with reading, listening, and associating. For example, I have a buddy that is a plumber, makes great money, and he currently just switched jobs. So if he wants to make more money, get a raise, get better in his field, because he found, okay, I have a skill that I can make pretty close to 6 figures at super early 20s, which is absolutely phenomenal. So if he can just take his focus and he can go from, okay, I am doing this job, I'm going to start reading in this area, I'm going to start listening in this area and associating with people who are good in this area, he can jump exponentially further. He can get so much better, so much faster because of doing that process. So start with what you would like to grow in, and then move to what you need to grow in. So if that's your career first, and then you move into your marriage or your finances, great. If that's fitness first, and then you move into your finances or your marriage or your career later, if that's, man, I'd really like to learn more about this and my hobby, and then you need to move into, man, you know what, I've noticed I'm terrible at communicating with people, and I argue with people, including my spouse, all the time. I lose sales over it at my job. Okay, transition into that. So I'm going to give a few examples of how I've used this in my personal life and what that's done for me and what this can do for you. So let's go ahead and rewind. When I was a 12-year-old kid, I was tubby. Okay, so I was a chunky 12-year-old kid that had kind of the man boobs going on, and a pretty solid-looking little beer gut for a 12-year-old, even though obviously I hadn't drank a drop in my life and still haven't, just never anything that I was interested in. But so I had a pretty interesting-looking physique, and I decided that I was going to start working out. Here was my motivator. My motivator was this. My sister was having a graduation party at a lake, and I'm little brother, so I'm like 12, 13, 14 when I catch wind of this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be fat in front of all of her friends with my shirt off because, little brothers, you think you have a chance with your sister's friends, even though you don't, because you're like a preteen and they're like about to graduate high school. But I had big hopes and dreams. What can I say? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start working out. So I started reading magazines like Muscle Mag, and I started getting, trying to get better supplementation. And I started this process off super slow. And then I went from the fat kid to, I go to summer camp a few years later, and people are like, whoa, what happened to you? Started working out, you look great. And then a few years later, fast forward, I'm reading Muscle Magazine every single night. I'm a bodybuilder. I'm listening to and watching videos all the time. And I'm asking everyone that I can talk to at the gym who has more results than me for advice. Fast forward a few years later, I get National Academy of Sports Medicine certified as a personal trainer, and I get my CrossFit certified level 1, and I become a coach. Fast forward a few years later, and I'm not bragging here, just this is the process that I went through in the fitness area. I went from a tubby little kid to, at the age of 23-ish, I think, I got a job coaching for weight loss and helping people walk through gut health programs. And I learned an astronomical amount of information from that process because I was reading, listening, associating. The doctor that I worked under, shout out to Dr. Jen once again, the doctor that I worked under, I would ask her, like, hey, what are you reading right now? Can I have articles? Can I have a recommendation for a book? Why did you answer that question that way? Because I wanted to know what she knew so I didn't have to go ask her the same thing over and over and over again. I hated when a patient would ask me a question and I'm like, you know what? Let me go find out. Like, I just wanted to be able to help them right there. So I started reading some of the books that she recommended. I started listening to podcasts. I started watching some videos because I wanted to learn not all of what she knew, because obviously that's not going to happen. She went to school for years and years and years for this, has a multiple bachelor's and a doctorate degree. Like, I just wanted to learn that area. So I went from being a tubby kid when I was younger to coaching weight loss. Okay, so through read, listen, associate. Example number 2, when I got into probably, I'm going to say like 7th grade, maybe a little bit younger, I wanted to learn how to tumble. Like, I wanted to learn how to do parkour and backflips and front flips and all that stuff. And I'm watching videos of guys doing what's called free running, like they're, jumping off roofs and all this different stuff and doing double backflips, running up a wall and doing a double backflip. I'm like, man, that'd be cool to learn how to do that. Guess what I did? I started watching tons of videos. I started watching tutorials. I started hanging out with people that were in that field, and I started doing whatever. There wasn't really any reading that I could do because that's a pretty visual sport, but I started trying to do whatever I could to grow in that area through watching videos, listening to people talk about what they were doing, going through tutorials, listening to it, doing it again, taking videos of myself. Okay, what did I do wrong? Okay, let me show that to someone. Okay, what would you recommend? How can I set this up better so I get more height, so I have more time to do more rotations in the air? How can I started growing in that area through hanging out with people that were doing that and listening to and watching content around people. So I was basically getting mentored by people that I didn't know on the read and listen side through watching content, listening to content. And then on the association side, I'm working with people who are also in the field. And by the time I ever got to the place where I needed coached, I had a person basically tell me, like, we really don't have that much to teach you. Like, change this, tweak this. Like, other than that, you're good to go. Because I had a self-directed education in that area. I spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And that's not something that no one, it's not like, oh, there's a special skill set. Like, no, just be a hungry student. Just have the desire to learn, read, listen, associate, have the desire to learn and grow and be disciplined enough to read in that area, listen in that area, and associate in that area. Last example, back in 2018, so I've had over 24 jobs. I dropped out of college twice. I dropped out of university once, and I was homeschooled K through 12. So if you're looking at, okay, someone who's going to be super successful financially, most people in the 95% world think you've got to have a good job, a good education, good secure benefits, blah, blah, blah. You got to make a high 6-figure year salary. You got to work your butt off and brown nose with the boss and, kiss up to the boss. And what can I do for you today, sir? And I always thought that was stupid. But in 2018, I had about $40 to my name, and I'm talking between all accounts, credit cards maxed out, no savings, $40 to my name multiple times. And so that's 5 years ago. So I was 23 at the time. Okay. So I'm 23, and I had multiple instances where I had like $44 to my name. I'm talking I'm doing the math. Okay. Can I go drive and hang out with this friend and still get to work Monday? Do I have enough gas to go hang out with him this weekend, go out to eat and grab the cheapest thing possible, and then still get to work Monday and hopefully have enough money to go cash my check, get the money, and then drive to the gas station? I don't know. Hey, could you pick me up? Because I don't have the gas money for that. I was absolutely broke. I was busted. I was poor. I had no money multiple times. I remember waking up, getting my water shut off, getting my electricity shut off, getting my gas shut off, texting my landlord explaining why I was going to have to pay rent in 2 separate payments. I was super broke. I can remember all this stuff. Selling stuff. I'm working 60 hours a week. I have another part-time job. I'm doing personal training. I'm doing everything I can, and I'm still going backwards. What changed? So going from that to where now in the next 12 months, my wife and I will be making close to 10 grand a month, working 10 to 15 hours a week. I won't have to do anything for my agency anymore. I'll be completely financially free, jobless, not self-employed, none of that. I will not have to trade time for money or a service for money or sell anything. I won't have to do any of that stuff anymore before I'm 30 years old. How can I go from barely having $40 to my name to a place where I'm financially free before the age of 30 and I could basically just be a full-time dad and do whatever the heck I want, whenever I want, with who I want, where I want? How can I get there? Read, listen, associate. People oh, you have to be talented, you have to be this. No, you don't. Any area that you want to grow in, Three-step process for success. Read, listen, associate. Read books. If you were to go to my bookshelf right now, I have a bunch of different categories, but the majority of them focus around psychology, marketing, sales, business, and communication. Like, that's the majority of my reading. Why? Because I am in a people business. I want to get better at working with people for my business and for ministry. Because if I can get better at working with people, I can help them more. I can be more effective. They can be more comfortable around me because I have less jagged edges on my personality, which is constantly a work in progress. Like, we all have a long ways to grow, no matter how far ahead you might be now or how far behind you are. Just take comfort in the fact that we are all on a journey. Everyone has a ways to grow. No matter how polished they may seem now, they have so far that they could go to become who they're meant to be. So I read in people skills. I want to get better at talking with people. I want to get better at drawing them out, listening to them, making sure that they know that I care about whatever it is that they want to talk about, because if it's important to them, it's important to me, because people as a whole are very important to me. I want to grow in that area. I want to grow in the area of business. So I read books about business systems, about leadership, about business finances, about organizational leadership, about creating a culture. I read in that area. I read psychology, marketing, and sales books because I want to understand how people's brain works. So when I talk to them and I'm trying to help them move in an area, I want to understand the sales process. I want to understand how to market things, how to discuss something so it actually comes off in a way that makes sense. And I want to understand people at a deeper level, because if I can communicate better with you by understanding the way that you actually work below the surface better, then I can be more effective. And then lastly, I read a lot of books in the area of mindset, because attitude management, like I talked about in the last, I think it was 1 or 2 episodes ago, when I talked about, the longer I live, the more I realize that life is 90%, 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond, that sort of thing. Attitude management is extremely important. So mindset, again, back in 2018 when I had $40 to my name, I was also, shocker, depressed. I was also very worrisome. I was also waking up every single day with a knot in my stomach because I was totally broke. I felt like I had no purpose in my life. What am I supposed to do? What did God put me here for? Do I have meaning? Like, all this stuff. So I had to work on my mindset. So I had to work on mindset, my ability with people. I used to love to argue. If you knew me back in the day, I would love to hop in the comment section of any Facebook post, Instagram post, whatever, and just argue till the day, till the sun went down. I don't know why. A man or woman convinced against his will or her will is of the same opinion still. I didn't know that back then until I read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. But now I'm like, you know what? Nobody wins in an argument, so I'll scratch that. If we have a difference of opinion, that's okay. But when I started, I loved to argue with anyone and everyone about pretty much anything, because I wanted to prove that they were wrong and I was right. And it was a pride thing. It was a low self-esteem thing. I didn't know that at the time. You couldn't have told me that. I had to learn that. So going from a tubby kid to coaching weight loss, going from someone that barely understood anything about parkour, flipping, tumbling, all that stuff, to getting a job coaching at a competitive cheer place as a tumbling coach. And then lastly, going from being totally broke, $40 to my name sort of thing, to a position where in the next year, we're quickly on our way to hitting that goal. I'm not going to name income numbers. I feel like that's scummy, whether it's low or high. I just feel like it's kind of gross, and I don't want anyone to listen to an episode and be like, I need to go take a shower because that was gross. But getting in a position where I was, $40 to my name, to where I will not have to work over 10 to 15 hours for the rest of my life, being completely financially free, no job, no active income. I'll get paid for what I did versus what I'm actively doing. Even though I was broke just 5 years ago, super in debt, no bank account to speak of, hated my job, going through get a job, quit a job, get a job, quit a job, work to home to work, that sort of thing. That was all I did. How'd that happen? Read, listen, associate. Read in the area that you want to grow in. Listen to content in the area that you want to grow in that's complementary to what you're reading, and associate with people who are looking to grow in that area. Check the fruit. Make sure they actually have results. Read, listen, associate your way to any goal, and you will get what you want if you will apply those 3 things continually over time.